Well, I couldn't look good if I had to. Lord, these old fingers have seen a lot of things. Never will forget the time James, they never hit a stump and I went in the river, head foremost. Down here.
You were in the boat?
Yeah, I was in the boat. When I come up, I was just spewing water. And I said, you get me back in that boat and I'm going to the house. My name is Roevernie Griffith and I'll be 93 years old the 31st of August. I had 2 brothers and 4 sisters.
What's the story about how you got your name?
Named after Daddy's sister, Bernie. The lady that come and helped Mother when she was pregnant with me, her name was Rosa. And they took the first part of her name. That was the best old black woman you ever seen in your life. She was like a family. I mean, she'd just take something to eat some days and wouldn't have no pay. She was very, very poor. And she depended on what they called the relief back then to live. She did commodities, they'd give them commodities. You had a card back then, but when Roosevelt got in office, they done away with that mess. He provided a lot better way for people that was indigent, couldn't provide for themselves to live. The first dress that I ever made, Ethel Borden helped me make it for her. She liked to can. That's where I learned to can.
Well, what's the earliest you remember?
Of here?
Of anything?
Where'd you grow up?
Shoot, I remember riding the school bus from Good Springs to Parish.
Where was the school at you went to?
Parish.
You went to Parish?
Well, I went
didn't know
to
that.
Aldridge, Good Springs in the first class. Went there till I was in the 6th grade. And then I went to Aldridge 2 years, and then I went to Parish. That's where I finished.
So where did you grow up?
On the way to Littleton's Bridge. It was on the Good Springs, Littleton Road. We had a farm down in the Narrows, about 20 acres. And after the flood came, I wasn't but 12 years old. That's been a long time ago. That morning, my 2 brothers fixed the wagon. We got our dinner together. We fixed our dinner before we went. We went in the wagon down there, and we got to about middle ways of the hill. It was down a hill to where we had the corn patch and peas next to the river, Warrior River. And it come a hard rain the night before, and the water was up over the field. We lost all that crop because we had a good crop. We lost all that crop. We was the only one that had a well in our community. The man that had the driller from Oakman, I forget his name. But anyway, he drilled a well in our yard. And everybody else went to trying to get water. 3 or 4 people drilled wells and they didn't even get no water. But Daddy had one that furnished the whole community. About 15 people came and got water at that well.
At your house?
At our house.
Do you remember the first time you rode in a car?
Yeah, it was old Dr. Busby's Model T.
Really? Were you
I had
scared?
appendicitis. He picked me up and carried me and put me in the car and carried me to the hospital.
So you had to ride in it?
I had to ride in it. It didn't have glass sides in it. It had this plastic stuff,
Yeah.
and it snapped. They didn't many people have cars. The doctor and the lawyers and stuff, people like that. You didn't go plow. You didn't carry plows and everything in your car. Car was kept for Sunday.
Yeah.
For you to go to church in. Daddy was and Brad Marr was 2 of the first ones that had a car in Good Springs, besides the doctors and the lawyers.
Your dad?
Yeah.
And what did he do?
He worked in the mines all his life. And, well, in 1945, I think it was, they gave him a bossing job at Gorgas. And he was a boss till he retired. And this is me and James in 1936 on Bear Gap Hill.
You have flowers on. What were you doing?
Huh?
You have flowers on your shirt. So does he.
It was Easter Sunday.
Okay.
He brought me that corsage.
Do you remember when electricity became where every house was wired with electricity. Do you remember before that?
No, I can remember them wiring the houses, but I don't remember what year it was.
But you can remember living before you had electricity at night. You had to.
Oh yeah, I think I've still got the old oil lamp in there in the thing. When I first started the school, I learned about it was still bad. You was rationed on your shoes and like food. It was terrible. If you didn't have eggs and stuff at home that you could make out on a lot of people's stove, we had a neighbor whose name was Houston Hall. Daddy caught him in our potato house one night. The dogs was just cutting up and everything, and he got his gun and went to the potato house. When he opened it, that old man had him one of these old-timey toe sacks, we called it.
Yeah.
And he was getting potatoes out of the potato house. Our neighbor.
I mean, what did your daddy do for that?
Got him outside and gave him a good talking and helped him load up a sack of potatoes to take home.
Let him take them.
Yeah. He told Daddy, he went to crying. He told Daddy his family was hungry. And they had one boy in the CC camp, they called it. President Roosevelt. Everybody thought he was a king.
Yeah.
He was a good man. And he was the one that started that CC camp. It was like army, but it was a camp that they went to, and they sent the family so much money a month to help them to live on.
Okay.
People that didn't have an income.
I got
Social Security was something wasn't even be heard of. And I mean, that kept a lot of people from starving to death.
So you met Eleanor Roosevelt?
Oh yeah.
How was that?
I believe it was 1970. We went to his home place in Eleanor, his wife.
Yeah.
We got to see her. She was still living. She was sitting in a rocking chair, rocking on the front porch.
Was there a lot of people that come there, or was it?
Well, it was a sightseeing place.
Yeah.
You had to get a pass down at the bottom of the hill to go up to the house to talk to her.
So tell me how did you meet Papa and all that? How did
on
that
the
happen?
school bus.
So y'all went to school together?
No, he finished the year that I finished at Aldridge. The B-10 bus come to Good Springs and brought a load. They picked them up all the way. They dumped what they had at Good Springs, and they took what was left on the parish. And he would be on the bus, and he'd save me a seat for a week. I wouldn't sit by him. I sat down on the front seat and no. And the time I went back to see him, he stood up when I got on the bus, come walking up there and got me by the arm. And I threatened to slap his jaws. I'll think of her name in a minute. Jessie Mae Berry. This guy, she was going with him, and I don't know what it was about a pony that he rode around the ball field of an evening. And
he rode a pony around?
Yeah, and get attention is what he's doing. And one day that thing throwed him and busted his breeches wide open. And he couldn't go back in the bunch of where the kids was that when they got through playing. So he whistled, and I turned around and looked, and he pointed for me to come there. And he said, listen, I busted my breeches open, and if I go to the bathroom and pull them off, will you take them to the home ec room and sew them up? And I said, well, I guess so. Why? He said, the seat of my breeches is busted wide open, and I ain't getting on that bus this evening with a busted breeches. So I took his breeches to the home ec room and sewed them up and brought them back. And them gals that never let me live that down. So when we get our breeches busted, we're going to bring them to you. And Miss Foch, she said, well, I can't believe you, Roevernie, sewing up that boy's breeches. I said, well, he had to get on the bus. And I felt sorry for him. She said, well, she gave me a pat on the back. She said, well, I'm tickled that you did it for him. But I had it made in high school. Fochie was the lady's name in the home ec department. She'd come and get me the second period. And I'd go and help her in the kitchen. And that's where I learned how to make yeast rolls. Because she'd get me, she said, There ain't many people you can trust with this in this department.
You said Papa, he was 6 years older than you, so you were still in school, and
Yeah, and he was finishing.
yeah.
And he was lucky that he finished. He was the only one of 5 boys that ever graduated from school.
Really? When Papa finished school, did he just go straight to work in the mines?
His daddy was working at Flat Creek, and he got him on so he could drive him back and forth. James just got a job, a real easy job. It wasn't in the mines for something. I don't remember what it was, but anyway, they was on the night shift. And his daddy got to where he couldn't see to drive back and forth. And James done that about a year before they ever hired him for a job. You know what? I'd always heard of the mines all my life. And James took me down there. He had to work one weekend, but he wasn't going to have to go inside. And they offered to take me in on a car and let me look around. I said, there ain't no way I'm going in that hole.
So when he started working in the mines, did he work with your daddy?
No, not till we moved to Flat Creek. And Daddy got him a job at Garvis, and then he went to work with Daddy.
Did they get along good?
Oh, yeah. Daddy thought the sun rose and set in him.
So when did y'all get married?
1940.
How old were you then?
May the 31st. I would have been 18 in August. I knew how to cook and sew and do everything that most people now don't even know how to do when they're married.
How long were y'all married before you had kids?
2 years. Judy was born, it had been 2 years in May, and Judy was born in January.
Did y'all live here then?
No, we lived over at Good Springs.
Did you have them at home?
I had Judy at home, but I didn't have Jimmy at home.
Was that the plan, to have Mom at home?
Back then, you didn't go to hospital unless you couldn't have it.
You didn't have, so did the doctor come?
Doctor come to your house.
Wow.
Well, a lot of babies died back then.
Yeah.
But back then, you didn't have the care like you get now. When they bombed Pearl Harbor, well, that's when James got his call to go to service. But I was expecting Jimmy at that time.
So
they didn't make him go. Back then, if a woman was close to labor, they didn't take him. Well, he was going to go. He didn't ever. A lot of them back then rejected, and they got put in jail.
Yeah.
Well, I was scared they'd bomb us.
Yeah.
After they did what they did, I was afraid that they'd bomb us. Everything got expensive, and you couldn't get car parts to fix a car, and you couldn't buy tires hardly. They was rationed.
Yeah.
Sugar, lard, flour, and all that was rationed. You got a booklet, and each stamp in that book represented so many
like
dollars or what. As far as there's a company, the mining company owns all the houses. You rent the house and pay so much a month. You sign a contract. Everybody knew everybody. Mm-hmm. And the good thing about the camp, though, the women in the wintertime quilted at each other's house. This woman put up a quilt, and all the women that could quilt they'd quilt 2 and 3 in a day. There'd be so many people there, you could put up 2 quilts and get them quilted in a day. But after a while, they bought their own places and moved out, and company sold the houses. Yeah. And they sold them down around the plant. This is a plant house, but it's built onto. This was one of the steam plant houses. Well, James and them worked for about a week sawing down trees and everything here to put it on. We bought 10 acres from Daddy. 20 acres. He had 40, and we bought half of it, 20 acres. It worked out real good because Daddy hadn't retired at that time, and James hadn't, so they rode together to work.
When did you move out here? Do you remember what year it was?
1960. Judy, you need some help?
Granny's looking for a way out.
No, I ain't looking for a way out, but I heard her banging around in there. But I worked for Sears and Roebuck making draperies.
How did you get started doing that?
Well, the mines come out on a strike. The first bad strike really that they come out on. And we was buying this place over here. That's before we ever moved over here. And we was owing on that truck we had.
The Chevrolet, the green one.
Yeah. I said, James, I'm not going to sit on my butt and lose everything we've worked for. Would you be objecting to me to work for Sears and Roebuck if I can get a job?
Had he not wanted you to work?
He never did want me to work before, but I always sold and made good money.
Mm-hmm.
And he said no, because he worked his carpenter work while he was out to help pay, buy groceries and stuff like that. Because then they didn't have a fund to help nobody. So Sarah Delaney and I went on Monday morning to the place where they hired for Sears. They run it in the paper in the Mountain Eagle. Like they needed hands in the drapery department and sewing straight seams and all. They asked me if you work in the drapery department and we need you in this other department, would you go there? And I told them yes. Well, Barry was the lady's name that was the boss. And I don't know, that woman took a liking to me to start with. And after I got hired, we had the best garden that year we'd ever had. And I couldn't take care of. Well, James come in from the mines after the mines went back to work, and he'd be working on vegetables till I got here. And it'd take me an hour to drive. And that's the way we done. And I worked in the drapery department. And but 2 days that I went and helped in the other sewing room where they sewed straight seam.
So did you have to drive to Birmingham every day to do that?
Yeah, but that green Chevrolet was a new truck when I started.
So you drove it back and forth to
I drove it back and forth. I never drove a truck in my life.
It's crazy, I learned to drive in that truck.
There's 3 women at Flat Creek paid me $10 a day to ride with me. They said it'd cost them that. And if I'd come by and pick them up of a morning, one of them worked in the same department I did and one worked in the next department. And when Christmas come, they laid these other 2 ladies off. But I got to keep my job. And then when James got down when we found out he had terminal cancer, I gave my job up. I told him I needed to be at home with him. When I had that drapery business, I knew nearly everybody.
Yeah.
It wasn't very few people that I didn't know.
So people brought stuff to you to do?
Oh yeah, for me to do. And if they hadn't come to me, they'd call me and want to know something. Could I help them out with this or that and the other? James, until he got sick, did all my rod work. And I watched him enough and helped him enough until I knew.
Yeah.
The last big drapery job that I did for a motel, I hung the rods one night myself.
What motel was it?
A motel in Cadover. Back then, see the mines and the plywood plant and all. That motel in Cadover was going full-fledged. And that's having to put 2 men to the bed when they worked at the plywood plant or the cotton mill. And one time, they tried to arrest me coming from Cadover. They said a truck like mine was at the plywood plant stealing supplies. I told that sheriff, I said, "You're a pop-eyed liar." Accused me of stealing something. He said, "Woman, don't you call me a liar. I'll carry you to jail for defamation of character." I said, "I don't give a darn what you do." I said, "I didn't do nothing for you to stop me."
Yeah.
"Yeah, but a truck like yours was over at the plywood plant. We got to search it." I said, and they started throwing my groceries out of the bag I bought groceries. I said, "If you don't put them back in there, you're going to reap sorrow of this, because I'll go get the law myself right here in Cadover." But they was glad to put it back in the sack.
I was 2-3 years old when Papa died.
Yeah,
Tell
you
me
know what? He would sit on the front porch. I'd take him a jug of water out there because he had to sip water to keep his throat wet. And we had bought you a big wheel.
I remember that.
And you'd ride it around there and he'd watch you. And when you'd get out of pocket or something would happen, he'd holler for me to come and help Jamie. Come get him back on his little wheeler.
But I never really knew him. What was he like?
He had a high temper.
Yeah?
Had a temper like a wildcat.
Tell me about that. Did you always know that when you were kids?
Well, no. He didn't drink a lot, just when he got with a crowd that drank.
Yeah.
So I locked him up on the floor. I said, you ain't sleeping in the house with me tonight. Next morning I went out and he said, please don't lock me up again. If that house had caught fire, I'd have burned up. I said, is that all you think about?
Did he remember being?
Oh yeah, and he apologized and everything. I won't do it no more. I won't go off with them no more and everything like that. I said, yeah, the next time comes. I said, James, you're gonna have to learn not to go off with them kind of people.
What about like his woodworking stuff?
When he went to high school, he took a class in that, and he always wanted to do that. His daddy and him wouldn't buy him a saw or nothing. What he did it with a handsaw and a little old pocket knife. And then after we moved over here, and they first built that little bitty shop, the first part of it. And then he said, when we get the money, we'll add on to the back and get us a tractor and put in the other two. Newell had a full woodworking outfit, and he lived at Flat Creek. And when he died, Kathleen didn't know a thing in the world about nothing. And James went over there one day and he told her, he said, if you got the bills on that woodworking stuff, I'll pay you for every penny you got in it to help you. Because she didn't even have money to bury him with. And she had the papers, or Mule had kept them in a folder. And she come one day and he sat down with her and he wanted to know if that was satisfactory to her. He said, even though the woodworking tools is 2 years old, I'll pay you what they cost. Here's the paper. Well, after that, James bought a planer from somebody, I can't remember, and gave him $95 for it. And it was about a $700 bill to put to.
So if you had an opportunity to talk to your grandkids and generations 100 years from now, what would you want to say to them?
They living in paradise.
Why do you say that?
Well, back then when I was little, you didn't have no electric stove. You had an ice box and the iceman came. The iceman came every other day.
Every other day?
Yeah. And the ice house was at Parish. Time they got down to Good Springs, well, 50 pounds of ice didn't weigh over 35 pounds. They'd have a big old truck with a heavy bed on it, and they'd have pipes, like if the water run down here, they'd have pipes to go off of each side of it, it'd drain the water off, keep it from going to get in the cab.
I guess refrigerated truck, that didn't happen until...
Lord, no, not till I was a grown kid. When Papa was living, we had a grist mill out here. We couldn't have had the cows that we had if we hadn't had that mill to grind our feed.
So you had one here?
Oh yeah, out there, and I helped grind it. It was run off of the tractor. There was a belt on the tractor.
Yeah.
We would save all of our corn stalks, we called it fodder, the leaves off of the corn.
Yeah.
You saved every bit of that and you ground it up. That'd make the best sweet milk you ever drank. One time we was out of food, out of stuff to feed them like the bone. James took the truck, went out yonder and cut kudzu while them cows thought they had Christmas. But he said, now them cows ain't going in the lot there tonight without any food. I'm going out yonder and cut some kudzu and see if they'll eat it. They eat every bite of it.
Wow. Mama told me in the past that he would get emotional over it. Like you said, he had a cow or something that he...
Well, we had a big old bull and it kept getting out. I mean, you couldn't put it in a pasture or nothing. It'd jump the fence. It'd eat up the garden one time. We had the prettiest patch of corn, and it'd eat that up. He said, well, Roevernie, I've been crossways with you about that bull, but I'm going to give up to let you have it butchered. But I ain't eating a bite of it, he said. So we got Mr. Watts' boy out here to come and slaughter it. And he said, Roevernie, I think I'll go to town and get some gas while he butchers that. And he come back and he had it hanging up out there. James puked all over the place. He said, Roevernie, I can't stand this. I said, well, go on in there to the house. You don't have to look at it. He said, I ain't eating a bite of that. I said, well, that's your prerogative, but I'm going to eat some of it. That won't bother me a bit in the world because I'm tired of running the darn thing.
Yeah.
Mother lived to be 96 and her mother lived to be 98 and milked a cow the day before she died.
Yeah, what did you think you'd be doing when you were 93?
I thought I'd be 6 foot under.